Other time, my cousins and I were walking along the lake shore, and we had our rods and reels with us, and we saw a dead sucker that had washed up to the shore. And if you want to think about suckers, they're big. This thing was about this long. We never caught fish that big. So my cousin had this idea. He says, watch this. He took his line and strung it out a little bit, got his hook, hooked it in the mouth of that dead sucker. And he picked up his rod like this, and it was bent so far down. This fish was huge. And with our parents and aunts and uncles watching from up on the hill, they had no idea that it was a dead fish because they were so far away. So my cousin says, watch this. The voice comes down. Is it a king? Oh my gosh, look what, his name was Gene. He's not here, so he's like, look what Gene caught. And his mom was just going crazy. That's the biggest fish I've ever seen. And they all came running down to see the dead sucker. And after my cousin Gene's mom saw what it was, he was kind of the dead sucker. I felt bad for him. She wasn't too happy, but it was kind of fun. But my favorite one was, I was more of an adult now. I was in my 30s, and we had some kids from our youth group out at the lake. And we were fishing in the boat. And one of the kids in our youth group, his dad was there along with us. He was one of our youth leaders, one of our helpers. And he had this brand new rod and reel, really expensive one, hadn't even used it yet. And his son, who was probably 12, 13 at the time, said, Dad, can I use your new rod and reel? He says, well, yeah, I'm going to use his name because he's not here. I can use his name is Josh. He said, well, Josh, you know this is brand new. This is very expensive. Do you think you'd be all right with it? Yeah, what could possibly happen? So we're out in the boat. It was a really hot, sunny day. So being the young, cool teenagers they were, they brought up the suntan oil. And he used a lot of oil, oiled up his hands, oiled up his arms, oiled up his legs. There's something about suntan oil. It's kind of slippery. Mm-hmm. And he didn't realize this. He has his dad's rod and reel. Hands are slippery from the suntan oil. The very first cast, he cast it out and there goes the rod and reel on the bottom of the lake. And we didn't say anything to him yet. We thought we'd be real cool. We went back to the shore and got our goggles and our fins, and we were going to be super scuba divers, and we were going to go find this lost rod and reel. Never did. And he had to tell his dad, but it was the funniest thing. It was just that suntan oil. He casted it out, and there it goes. So fish stories. If you grew up in Superior like I did, there was always the story also of the 100-pound muskie that resided in Lake Amnicon, just out of town here. As a kid, I'd always heard the story of the 100-pound muskie. Never saw it. Sure into a lot of people hadn't saw it, of course. Oh, I was out there fishing, and then a 100-pound muskie came and almost bit my arm off, almost bit off my hand. There's a lot of fish stories. I'm going to talk a little bit today about fishing. And hopefully we're going to learn a little something here, not only about actual fishing, and I'm really not an expert, but we're going to talk about fishing. Now, I said when I grew up, I did a lot of fishing out at the lake, and my dad was the ultimate fisherman, just a great, great fisherman. He passed away 2 years ago in September, and I just thought of that, putting this message together when I did his memorial service a couple of years ago. I opened up the microphone to have people share memories of my dad, and everyone that spoke said something about his fishing ability and how much he enjoyed fishing and how good of a fisherman he was. And I was thinking as I was putting this together, why was he such a good fisherman and I was just so average? We'd go out all the time, and maybe once out of every 10 trips out in the boat, maybe I'd catch one or more than he did. But he always outfished me. And I had to think, why? First and most important thing is that he worked at his fishing. He made it a priority to actually study and to work. With me, it was just, hey, let's go out and have some fun. So, he knew the time of day to go out. He knew exactly what bait, what lure to use. He knew what depth to fish at. And he had patience. Me, it was like just go and I'd cast anywhere and just hope that I would catch onto it. But he had a plan. He knew what he was doing. Would you open up your Bibles, if you would, tonight? Matthew chapter 4. Story we're pretty familiar with, but we're going to break it down a little bit here tonight as I teach for just a few minutes on the subject. Let's go fishing. Doesn't it sound like fun tonight? Let's go fishing.
Yeah.
It was always fun to hear my dad or my friends or something when we were out at the lakes say, "Hey, Scotty, what? Let's go fishing." And I almost would never say no because fishing was enjoyable, fishing was fun. Matthew 4:19 through 22. Starting at 18. And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. I want to stop there for a minute. When I fish, and when most of us, physically fish, we're doing it for the recreation. We're doing it for the fun. But Pastor Jeremy already led into this, and he was talking about livelihood. When he was talking about the pigs, it was livelihood. Well, fishing was the livelihood of these guys. This is how they made their money. If they didn't fish, they didn't have no income. They had no money. So they were doing all that they knew and everything that they could. This was their job. So they're out there doing their job. And here comes this guy. Here comes Jesus walking by. And he says something to these guys in verse 19. He said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Let's stop there for a minute. Again, they were in the middle of their job. And this man says, "Follow me?" It's like, wait a minute. If we stop and we follow you, we'll have no fish. We'll have no food. We'll have no money. But verse 20. No hesitation, no thinking twice. They immediately left their nets and followed him. Verse 21, going on from there, he saw two other brothers. It's bad enough that he took two guys already from their jobs, from their livelihood. He found two more guys. James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets. And he called them. And guess what? Immediately, they left their boat and their father and followed him. Not only did these guys give up their livelihood, give up their job, give up everything that they had known, they gave up their relationship with their father at the moment to follow this guy they had never even met before. And they must have been thinking a little bit, fishers of men, what on earth is this man talking about? But you have to know something about Jesus. When Jesus talked to somebody, when he came in contact with somebody, he knew exactly who he was talking to. He didn't just casually make up conversations. He knew that these guys were fishermen, and by Jesus saying to them, "I'll make you fishers of men," they were already perked up. They said, "Hey, this guy knows us." And he was able to use that analogy of fishing for what he was about to call him to do. In this new endeavor that they were about to go on in their life, Jesus used the fishing analogy. Jesus spoke in a language that they understood. These fishermen knew what he was talking about. So what exactly does it mean then to be fishers of men? What I want to do here for a few minutes tonight is I have 5 points, and you might want to take notes here, because 5 ways in which we can become fishers of men. Not in any particular order, but number 1, if we're fishing, you have to have some kind of a plan. And you have to know what you're fishing for. When my dad would ask me to go out and boat them or go down the dock, he'd say, "All right, Scott, we're going to go fishing." And my first response would be, "For what?" Well, he could have just said, "Well, for fish." But no, we had to have a plan. We had to know exactly what type of fish we were fishing for. Why? Because different fish take a liking to different baits. Different fish like different water levels or different water temperatures. So we had to have a strategy. You don't go out and catch sharks the same way that you're going to catch a bass. You imagine going out on the ocean with a hula popper, which is what I like to use for bass, casting that out in the ocean and trying to catch a shark with a hula popper. It's not going to work. You have to be specific. You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy for the type of fish that you're out to get. Jesus had a specific target when he asked his disciples to become fishers of men. Why don't you open up to Matthew chapter 10? There's a plan. This is how specific Jesus is when he talks about fishing. This is how specific we need to be fishing. Matthew 10, 5 and 6. These 12 Jesus sent out and commanded them, saying, do not go in the way of the Gentiles. Do not enter a city of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Stop there for a minute. Jesus was very specific. He didn't just say, all right, go fishing. He said, this is what you're going to go fishing for. He said, I want you to go to Israel. I mean, there's a Gentile nation that needed to be reached, and we were going to see, as we go through the Bible, we know that they were. But for that moment, for that time, Jesus gave a specific group for them to go fishing for. And if you look at it closely, you ever wonder why that is? Because these disciples were young still. They had not been fully trained, and the house of Israel, it was their own people. And they knew their people. So they knew how to reach their own people. It would have been hard enough for them to do that. Jesus wouldn't have been able to send these, Israelites to reach the Gentiles yet. So he said, specifically, go to the house of Israel. They had a target. And it was a target that the disciples could relate to. I thought how the Lord still does that today. Just this past Mardi Gras trip, one of the nights I was downtown, of all the people that the Lord could have put me in contact with, if you know anything about me, I do enjoy football. I enjoy the Packers. But of all the people that the Lord could put me in contact with, I ran smack into a linebacker who played for LSU, Louisiana State University, Division I, one of the biggest college football powers in the nation. I ran smack into a linebacker from LSU and began to talk to him. I don't want to say unfortunately, he was already saved. He was there with another person that he was trying to kind of steer away from everything that was going on. But regardless, I had a great conversation with this guy. And I was able to relate to him. I was able to, share things with him and talk to him in a way that some other people might not have been able to. The Lord put that person right in my path, someone that I could relate to, someone that he could relate to, and we're talking at the same level. So we have to know what we're fishing for. Be specific. Number 2, and this is going to sound like when I'm teaching or preaching, I call it the no duh. And if it's a no duh, you can say no duh. As kids, we always tell our parents always tell us, don't say no duh. That's not very nice. But you want to hear a no duh? When you're fishing, go where you know the fish are biting. If you go into a lake and you hear all these stories, well, if you go over to this portion of the lake, this is where the water's the coolest. This is where you're going to catch, the crappie spawning or whatever, and go over there. Well, no, I'm just such a good fisherman. I'm so good. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to go over on this side of the lake. Duh. Go where the fish are biting. If you know that the fish are biting there, it's a waste of time to sit in a spot and to keep fishing, keep casting if there's nothing there, and you know that. Matthew 10, again, chapter 14. Jesus says this. He's still talking to his disciples. Remember he told them to go out to the house of Israel and go and teach and preach to them. But whoever will not receive or hear your words, depart from that house or city. Shake off the dust from your feet. The fish aren't always going to bite. Jesus knew that. That's why he told his disciples that. You go into a house and the people aren't responsive. What did Jesus say? Leave. Get out. It's not You're wasting my time, you're wasting your time if you're going to continue fishing when they're not biting. Shake the dust off your shoes, go to another house where the fish are biting.
Amen.
Go where they're biting.
Amen.
Duh! I know it's a dumb one, but it is. Go where the fish are biting. And as I was putting this together, I thought of this building here. This location. I grew up in Superior, so I know all about Tower Avenue. You know, it's actually a lot better than it was when I grew up. There's been, if you don't know the history of this town, there's a lot of bars and a lot of buildings that have been torn down already. But when I grew up, like, it was almost every other building from Belknap over to 3rd Street was a bar. I believe that right here where this location has, God put you here for a purpose, put us here for a reason. This is where there are hungry fish. This is where the fish are biting. This is a hot spot. We don't even need a depth finder or a fish finder. We can walk out this door and there are fish everywhere. And I believe that there are hungry fish that are here. So go, number 2, go where the fish are biting. Don't waste your time where they're not. Number 3. Now this is going to sound kind of strange. But if you want to catch fish, if you want to become a fisher of men, we need to learn to think like a fish. When we're fishing, and I'm talking physically fishing here again to start, when we're fishing, we need to understand the habits, the preferences, the feeding patterns of the fish, or we're going to go out and we're not going to catch anything. In other words, what I'm saying is, fishing, if you really want to catch fish, it's like my dad. I said he put work into it. He put effort into it. Fishing is work. Fishing can be hard work. If you want to just go out and get a suntan and cast away and stuff, and if it doesn't bother you to not catch any fish, well, I guess that's up to you, but that seems like kind of a fruitless trip if you're going out just doing that. If you really want to catch fish, you're going to put effort into it. So study the habits, preferences, feeding patterns. Know the water. You know, some fish like to bite when the lake is real calm. You need to know that. But other fish like the choppy water when it's wavy. We need to know that. Some fish like to feed on the bottom, or some like to jump up on the surface. That hula popper I was talking about. Learn to think like a fish. It's the same thing when we're fishing for men. When we're out on this street or whatever street it might be, put yourself in the shoes of the fish that are out there. What are they going through? What might be going on in their lives? You know, work at it a little bit. You know, you see them coming out of a specific bar or something. You know, I wonder, why are they at that place? You know, ask them. You know, what is attracting you from this bar here? What is it? You know, think like they're thinking. Think like the fish, and then you're going to have more of a success rate of catching that fish if you can just think like they do, try to act like they do. You know, Jesus, again, it's another duh, because I mean, Jesus is God, so of course he knew what everybody was thinking. He knew their thoughts. But you know what? If we put effort into it and we try and we research, we can know what these fish out there are thinking. We can know what's going on in their lives a little bit, and we can try to, you know, put ourselves into their lives. Think like a fish. You know, so many times we're so quick to judge somebody that's out there. Don't do that. We know that being in these bars is a sin. We know that things are out there are a sin, but we don't know what's going on in their lives. We don't know why they're there. We don't know. You know, if Dennis wouldn't have told us today, we would have had no idea that his mom is suffering with cancer. We need to make the effort to try to get into these people. What are they thinking? I know that's something that I really, and I shared this when we went to New Orleans this last time, that's something I really tried to do, was put myself, or else I would use the examples of my own kids. You know, what if that was my daughter? What if that was my son? What if that's my parents out on the street there? I try to think like they are.
Yep.
And that helps us to do that. Number 4, and this is another one of the dull ones. We're out fishing, We've got our night crawlers. We're spending hours, it seems like, and we're not getting anything. What would the logical thing to do? What would be the logical thing to do?
Move.
That or what else? Change it. How about changing our bait? The worm's not working, the crawler's not working, let's change our bait. And we need to do that. Sometimes we get so stuck in our ways of evangelizing and trying to reach people. We almost, I don't want to say prideful, but it almost becomes a pride thing. This is my way. You know, I've reached 40 people for the Lord this way, and I'm going to continue to do that. Times change. People change. When you're fishing, the water temperature changes, the weed growth changes. Sometimes you may have to change your bait. Sometimes you may have to change your approach. You might have to if it's not working. It may have worked. You know, I use the analogy of the hula popper. It must have been luck or something, but I hadn't had a fishing license in quite a few years because I live in Minnesota, and to get a license in Wisconsin, you have to pay the non-resident fee, and it's fairly expensive. But because my grandson now is 8 and he loves to fish, I figured out, you know what? I'm going to get a license this summer. So I got a fishing license this summer to fish with them out at the lake. And I went out there one night. I'm on the dock. I got the hula popper. I'm popping the thing. All of a sudden, whoosh! I heard it. This bass jump up, reeled in this really nice bass, about 4 pounds. This was on a Friday night. The next morning I went out on the dock. Got another one with the hula popper. And later that afternoon, believe it or not, I mean, I hadn't fished in years. I got 3 bass in 2 days that were around 4 pounds. These were nice bass with my hula popper. Well, of course, that was I think it was in early June. Every time I've been to the lake since and I fished, I pulled out that hula popper since June. I've not even had one strike. Why did I catch 3 fish in 2 days on that hula popper and none the rest of the summer? I don't know. But because of my stubbornness or pride, whatever you want to call it, well, I got 3 bass on the hula popper, so I'm going to keep using it. While other people are using other things and they're catching fish. Just put the hula popper away. It's not working anymore. So change your bait. Keep your tackle box full. Be prepared. This is like my grandson's little tackle box. I don't think there's anything in it. There's Spider-Man one here.
That's yours. That's yours.
Keep your tackle box full. Keep your tackle box full. You always need to be prepared to change your bait. I preached a message at our church a while ago about David. And when he faced Goliath, he had a pouch on his side. And you know what was in that pouch? There were 5 stones in there. He was prepared. He was ready to go. His tackle box was full. Keep your tackle box full. You might have to change your bait. And lastly, number 5, I've already emphasized this a little bit. We need to realize that fishing is serious business. I'd say for most of us, it's just a hobby. It's a pastime. For the disciples, it was their life. It was their jobs. It was their livelihood. And if we are truly to become fishers of men, as Jesus called the disciples, it's not just a hobby or a pastime or something that we just do to have fun. It's something we have to work at. It's something we have to make an effort to do. It's something to be taken very seriously. In fact, it needs to become a lifestyle. Fishing needs to become our lifestyle. So let me run through those 5 just real quick, and one more story. Number 1, we need to know what we're fishing for. Number 2, we need to go where the fish are biting. Number 3, we need to learn to think like a fish. 4, we may have to change our bait. And 5, we need to treat fishing as a lifestyle, as a serious business, not just a hobby and a recreation. You know, there's a man that I heard about. Loved fishing. Thought about fishing day and night. It was his life. Thought about fishing. He read every book he could on fishing. Every magazine that he could get his hands on. You know, what a Field and Stream and whatever those magazines are. Every one that he could get, he would read about fishing. He'd go to seminars about fishing. And he learned from the greats about fishing at these seminars. In fact, he even taught and conducted seminars and would teach about fishing. He told others. There wasn't, now get this, there wasn't anything about fishing that this guy didn't know. There was only one problem. He didn't fish. Lord bless you tonight. Think about that for a minute. We can know everything. We could pick onto every class. We could sit through every class. We could read every book. We could read every magazine. We could do everything. Go to all these seminars about becoming a fisher of men. But if we don't actually go out and fish, it's nothing. Amen.
Amen.
This is probably landed as a life jacket too.